I mean, the muse is many things, but primarily I'd say that they're born into this world, and for a long time they're outside of our understanding. And the first to see them, I think, for who they really are, which is supremely individualistic, a single inhabitant of that faraway planet, that alien place, the first people to see them is the artists. Though the artist is cruelly discerning, paradoxically, the artists are also the most accepting people. Deemed ugly by others, the artist asserts that their muse is beautiful. But with painstaking effort, they prove to us why they are right. And they fashion their muse as the centerpiece of that foreign world. Rebellion is so necessary to the mystique of beauty, and the muse is the embodiment of that rebellion. Artists live humbly before the changing face of beauty. They remind us to always be open, searching, docile. The artist lives in servitude to their muse and to the next unknown that comes after them. Ugliness is often a beauty that we don't understand yet or don't accept yet. And when you follow the artist's example, you must always question what you think you know. Donyale Luna. She traveled from Detroit to New York and then Europe to become a model and actress. And as fated, she would become the first African-American supermodel and first African-American to be on the cover of British Vogue in 1966. And she was in Harper's Bazaar a year before that. She starred in multiple films like Who Are You?, Polly Magoo. She'd be a muse to several artists. I mean, Salvador Dali, literally, she was wearing this white, beautiful white shift dress, long to the floor. And Salvador Dali just scribbled all over it. And she wore it to some kind of talk show or some kind of interview. She was one of the few people to appear in an Andy Warhol screen test. She was the first African-American woman to be made into a Rootstein mannequin. Huge honor. Like most muses, Donyale didn't feel beautiful growing up. To African-American boys, she was too skinny and long, lanky, and her beauty was consistently throughout her life challenged by racists and would be at the same time equally revered by artists. At any given time, depending on where Donyale was in the world, she could be considered one of the most beautiful women to ever step foot on earth, or the ugliest in the most extreme application of that word. Sometimes ugliness is a word that our prejudice uses, and beauty, in the eyes of those without it, is the ultimate redeemer. Donyale Luna is a given name. That's not the name that she grew up with. Given names, fictional stories are common in muses. Donyale often said that she was from the moon, or from Mars, I believe, as Betsy Johnson said. This reinvention reestablishes the muse as their own person outside of society. It separates them from the unremarkable people, separates them from people that could not see their beauty. An adopted name is a rebellion and a move towards a cultural shift. The muse creates their own identity, their own environment, and the artist persuades us to pay attention. Every muse has a story, usually a story that's made up, or it sounds made up. Daphne Guinness, for example, whenever she was very, very young, she used to swim in Salvador Dali's pool filled with lobsters. Who really cares if that's true? That leaves a mark. People remember stuff like that. I mean, that's mythical, you know? It's ridiculous. To be a muse, your story needs to be well written. It needs to surprise the reader. Your story should be fictitious but believable. The best way to do that is to write based off of your real life and then embellish a little bit. So I figure, what better way to learn about muses than to learn how to write that kind of story? I just took this lovely class by Robin Walden. It's called Fictionalize Your Life. And this class was provided to me through this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Robin is actually a fellow YouTuber, so go check him out. But in this class, we come to understand how you can find the intersection between what is real and the fantasy that you've created for yourself. And one way that this can be done is through the act of recollection, through keeping a diary or a journal. I've told you guys time and time again to write down your life, to remember your life. It's not just to remember what happened. It's because your fantasy, your myth comes out of those entries. The fantasy, the myth of your life is born in the distance between the event, when it happens, and the time that you sit down and write it down. And it's really cool techniques like that that you can learn on Skillshare. For those of you who have never heard of Skillshare, let me introduce you to something you should probably know about. Skillshare is the largest online learning community with thousands of classes led by creative professionals, industry experts, devoted hobbyists, and literally anyone who wants to share their knowledge. The platform has a broad range of categories to explore. I mean, film and video, writing and publishing, of course, art and illustration. I'd say those categories are especially rich, but within literally everything that Skillshare has to offer, you will inevitably find a piece of yourself and that myth in there somewhere. There's a piece of you waiting to be discovered. It doesn't matter what it is. And the reason for that is because any creative act, any creative practice is an investigation into yourself. And I even touched on this on my last video. Creativity is healthy for you. It relieves stress. When you're doing something creative, like you spend, let's say, a half an hour or 40 minutes on a class, you are allowing your mind the privilege of being able to expand out of its normal limitations. It's beneficial to explore fictions and fantasy, and that's what creativity is born from. Explore what lies outside of reality. And like Robin, for example, encourages you to write down the details of your day in a journal or a diary and make those into short stories, which is where you can add those little embellishments and get creative with your story. I couldn't think of a better practice to inspire you towards your own personal fictions, towards your own myth. So if you're thinking about giving Skillshare a try, the first 500 people to use my link in the description or the QR code provided will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare.
Plus 20% off your first year.
Figure out who you are. Find your myth or literally anything else that you're interested in. They've got it, I promise. In the right hands, like in the hands of 60s London, Donyale was seen as the muse that she was. She was seen as ethereal, expressionistic, mystical, a walking work of art. And it's a kind of justice, how evident beauty exposes prejudice. Donyale had to do nothing but exist, walk down the street. One of her friends said that anyone with eyes wanted to work with her because her beauty was just self-evident. So it was clear that those who ignored or shut her down were allowing their ignorance to keep the world small and immobile. Again, great beauty is self-evident, and it has the power to reveal the pathetic defects of small people. Rossy de Palma started out as a musician in Mallorca, and she would go on to be one of the most recognizable faces of Spanish cinema and the fashion industry, thanks to the director Pedro Almodovar, who found her within, I think, what one article calls the anarchic nightlife of 1980s Madrid. After that, she would be in 7 of his films. And additionally, she would then walk the runways of Jean-Paul Gaultier and Thierry Mugler. And she would become lifelong friends with all of those people. Rossy would not be considered beautiful by most standards. And she said that in interviews herself. But she knew that if she was chosen as the muse, she was the perfect woman for the job. In an interview for Iris magazine, she spoke about her relationship with the director, Almodovar. "It's a pleasure to work with him. I mold myself well, and he knows that with me, he can do whatever he wants. I'm devoted to him, and that has its advantages because he knows that I'm effective. I'll give him whatever he wants." Rossy's look at its core is the beauty of effectiveness. A look that gets the job done, that can express the very inexpressible thing that needs to be expressed. She's the only woman for a particular role or that particular outfit on the runway. She's a spearhead, one of one, truly. There's like this saying in the design world, form follows function. I think that finds its incarnation in De Palma. Like Donyale, De Palma in the wrong hands would be exactly what an uncreative mind would consider to be ugly. But she, as a muse to an artist, challenges that ignorance. Like other muses too, Rossy is just as much a character as she is an image. I mean, Donyale had a very memorable voice, for example. The way that she spoke was very strange. It was a kind of mixture of all these different accents. And people remembered that about her. It added to her allure. It added to her image. And it's the same thing with Rossy. She has an attitude. She has wit and humor. And it's the mixture of those things, among many other things, but it's a mixture especially of a voice and an image that fosters change, a lightheartedness, a tolerance in people. All in all, they become somebody that you cannot turn away from. All of your guards are down. Alma, the muse of Reynolds, a couturier in post-war London. Alma, a self-assured woman of mysterious ethnicity whom Reynolds meets in a restaurant in the countryside. Alma and Reynolds, the perfect couple from the perfect film, Phantom Thread. Alma can model Reynolds' dresses, stand endlessly. She can give and take. She would be the woman that Reynolds waits for in the afterlife, poisoning him ever so often, reminding him what it is for someone to take care of him. Alma is arguably the shadow of Reynolds' late mother, and because of that, his connection to life, death, and reincarnation, literally in his bouts of sickness, as well as in his own creative practice. Before Alma becomes Reynolds' muse, she didn't have a high opinion of herself and her body. She said, "I never really liked myself. I thought my shoulders were too wide, my neck skinny like a bird. I had no breasts, my hips wider than needed, my arms too strong. But after working with Reynolds," she says, "in his work I become perfect, and I feel just right." Alma is the perfect fit. And this is shown literally through her measurements. She has the ideal shape, as Cyril calls it. But whether it's through those measurements or her being able to figure out exactly what kind of love Reynolds needs, she is one of one and only, an individual. She says she feels just right in the world that Reynolds has created for her, or the dresses that he puts on her, right? And in return, she offers him something only she can provide. It's a perfect love story. Alma, like Rossy or Donyale, proves that the muse is an individual, the only inhabitant of a certain world, and therefore the only ideal of beauty that exists there. It's like the best way that I can really describe it. Because they're the only one, Nothing else can be compared to them. They are the master of that world from where their beauty hails. It's the artist's innate ability to sense those unseen, far away, foreign, alien worlds and then translate them for us. The artist has the ability to get past what distracts others from, I guess you could call it like a universal truth, which is beauty. The artist creates the perfect fit, measures, calibrates the muse within the bounds of our world. They use the right color, the right measurement, the right style of painting or drawing or sculpture. For example, when Donyale was featured as a centerfold in Playboy magazine, they didn't rub oil all over her and put her in rollerblades. They gave her wings and a skyline. The photographer and the stylist understood how to translate Donyale into a work of art, even in an erotic magazine. You wouldn't put Rossy de Palma in a balayage wig and Louboutins. You wouldn't put her in The Notebook, you know? You put her in hot pink eyeshadow and cast her in a satire. You put a fat cigar in her mouth. You dye her hair 2 shades darker so that it looks like vinyl. And for Alma, you put her in satin, in the color of a cloudy ruby. I've read this quote before, and I'll read it again. Oscar Wilde once said, "No object is so ugly that under certain conditions of light and shade, or proximity to other things, it will not look beautiful. No object is so beautiful that under certain conditions, it will not look ugly." The muse and the unknown world are waiting to be born through the eyes of an artist.